I mean, this has been a very, very interesting season thus far for Philadelphia, and it just keeps getting more interesting. As brutal as it's been over the past 6 games, a little bit of good news, or at least what we hope to be good news in the future. Brian Johnson, our offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson, is going to interview for the Carolina Panthers head coaching position. You can't make this stuff up. And I know a lot of Eagles fans are rejoicing and they're thinking, oh, shooing for the job, right? And we hope Brian Johnson has a path of departure in Philadelphia. But in all seriousness, I hope for the man's success in life and in his future. But it's just very, very fascinating to me. The Carolina Panthers interviewing Brian Johnson for the head coaching position and also interviewing our assistant general manager, Alec Hallaby, for their general manager position. And he's Howie Roseman's right-hand man. And you have to think there's some sort of relationship between that interview with the general manager and the offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson, going for the head coaching position in Carolina. So, if all these things are true, I hope for much, much success for both Hallaby and Brian Johnson. However, there is a thing in my life that I've learned, and it's that you got to wait for things to come. You can't put the cart before the horse. If it's too good to be true, it most likely is. Is this really going to be a hire for Carolina? Is this really? Now, listen, a sucker's born every minute. And in the NFL, there's none who's more of a sucker than maybe the Carolina Panthers at the moment. They, try to make splash hires. They try to make splash plays, and they just haven't been able to get it right. And Brian Johnson seems to be an interview that, I don't know. I don't know what the Carolina Panthers see in Brian Johnson. I have to believe that this has to be Alec Hallaby, influence. And it also leads me to question something else. As happy as I am for the fact that Brian Johnson might not be my OC going into the offseason and that he might be somewhere else, if there is a connection between Alec Hallaby going for the general manager position in Carolina and now somehow Brian Johnson being interviewed for a head coaching position, really all this tells me is that Alec Hallaby knows something about Brian Johnson that maybe no one else does. Right? And maybe it's the fact that Carolina's Panthers have a bunch of idiots. Maybe it's the fact that they're morons. Or maybe it's the fact that Hallaby, Brian Johnson know that whatever we've put on tape this year is not what I would have done. I'm speaking as Brian Johnson. Is that a possibility? Sure, it is a possibility. Who knows? But right now, we need to rejoice. We need to celebrate the fact that Brian Johnson might be gone. He might get a head coaching position, and thus the Nick Sirianni tree of head coaches continues to go on if this happens. And if you're as happy as I am, listen, do me a favor here. Shoot the like button at the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. I'm your host, Asif Badi. This is going to be a really quick episode if it hasn't been so already. The main point of the episode is that we need to celebrate right now. Brian Johnson, I repeat, Brian Johnson might be the head coach for the Carolina Panthers. And you know what? The city of brotherly love couldn't be happier. They couldn't wait to get this guy out of town. They were on the verge of firing the freaking guy. And now all of a sudden, he parlayed that into a head coaching job. So you know what that tells me? This guy must be brilliant in the interviewing room. He must be brilliant in terms of relationships with people and interacting with people. Because how do you make a job? How do you make a job upgrade by putting shit product on the field week after week after week? And Brian Johnson, whether it's Nick Sirianni's offense design or not, whatever you want to say about it, it was the same design as it was last year with a little bit of nuance from Shane Steichen. This year, the play calling has been subpar. The game planning has been putrid. And you know what? This offense looks like complete dog shit. And somehow Brian Johnson has parlayed that into interviews for head coaches. It's really, really fascinating. It's really remarkable how the NFL works. But you know what? If this is true and this comes to fruition, this is a happy day in Philadelphia. This is a happy day for Eagles fans. And I am here to clap and celebrate. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. What a treat this is. And listen, if you agree, let me know in the comments section below. And please tell me your thoughts on what you feel like Brian Johnson should do in his offseason plans. Be a head coach. Get fired. Let me know. Also, do me a favor to help support the channel. Shoot this video a thumbs like. It'll help us in the YouTube algorithm. And lastly, check us out on not only Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, but check us out on Instagram at the Riding the Bench Podcast with a K instead of C in the word podcast. Support an Eagles page like this one. I would be greatly appreciative. And on that note, quick episode. That's all I got for you. Please enjoy your day. Be safe out there. And we'll see you back here next time for the Riding the Bench Eagles